It used to be that every entry into the MCU was something I really looked forward to, but ever since the Infinity War came to an end, each entry just kind of seems like a more and more shell of what the MCU used to be. And that brings us neatly along to the latest offering from Disney Plus streaming, which is What If. Before I get too far into that, my comic book, Elephant Rising, issue number 5, is fighting on Indiegogo, link in description. So on with the review. So What If is the latest Marvel series. This is an animated series put directly onto streaming onto Disney Plus. Now, What If is a show based on a comic book from back in the day with the same title, and it's what if something were to be different. What if Tony Stark never became Iron Man? And then it would tell you a little self-contained story that was apart from the Marvel Universe as a whole, and kind of show you how that would unfold. What if Tony Stark had never built a suit? Or what if Doctor Doom would become a hero? Or whatever the storyline is, and then it would kind of show you what ripple effects it would have through the Marvel Universe. They were always self-contained, one-off storylines. Every now and then, if one became popular, you would kind of see it maybe become canon later in the MCU, like the What If Jane Foster became Thor there. So anyway, that's the premise of the comic and basically of the show as well. Now, What If always had one main character, which was Uwatu the Watcher. So he's the only character that recurs through every issue of the book. He's kind of the narrator. He introduces the story, then he narrates it as it goes along, and he gives us kind of a little wrap-up at the end. That was always his role. So the Disney Plus series starts off with what if Sharon Carter became Captain America, or the Super Soldier, or Captain Carter as she's known in the show, which I didn't think was as cool a name. So this one, before I get started, spoiler alerts. I'm going to be spoiling this episode, so if you haven't seen it, please go watch it and come on back. I will be here when you get back. Anyway, that out of the way. So we're going to ask the question of what if Peggy Carter had gotten into the Super Soldier chamber rather than Steve Rogers. So this story starts off at the moment of the original Captain America movie where Steve Rogers has been recruited. He's gone through boot camp and he's about to go through the experiment to turn him into the Super Soldier. So, and that's when things kind of tangent off. So the German soldier, or the Hydra soldier rather, who had infiltrated the project, reveals himself early and starts shooting up the place, grabs sample of the Super Soldier serum, kills Dr. Erskine, and Steve runs out of the chamber, tries to stop him, but he's not Captain America yet. He can't really do much. And so the Nazi or the Hydra agent shoots him, wounds him, and leaves. Peggy Carter manages to stop him. She gets the sample of the Super Soldier serum back, but the project has already started, and it cannot be stopped once it is started, so they need somebody to get into the chamber. Otherwise, it's just a waste of time. The project is lost. So she goes ahead and gets in the chamber and just basically becomes a 6'5", broad-shouldered version of herself, similar to what happened to Steve Rogers when he went through the experiment. So at this point, we are given our first pretty hefty dose of kind of 1940s sexism and girl power moments as the general in charge informs us that the project was a waste of time because a woman can't be a soldier. No, that can't happen. So after that, we're given kind of a montage of Peggy learning to use her powers, and she learns through some magical intelligence that we don't understand where she gets that the Red Skull has stolen the Tesseract from the church in Scandinavia. So the general says, well, I'm not going to waste a single man on this mission. And so Sharon, or Peggy Carter, basically says, I am no man, and gets a shield from Stark and goes and leads a mission to recover the Tesseract, which she does in the span of about 5 minutes. So she gets the Tesseract back, and then she embarks on the mission to rescue Bucky and the Howling Commandos from the Hydra prison, which she does. And they go on a series of kind of Hydra busting missions. At this point, we're kind of following the same beats as the Captain America story, where you see a montage of them going and fighting German soldiers and Hydra soldiers. Steve Rogers is given a Captain America suit that's powered by the Tesseract that Sharon Carter recovered. They call him the Hydra Stomper. Okay, so, and that at least, so Steve does have something to do with the story. He does manage to get in there and get in some action as part of the Howling Commandos in this early version of the Iron Man suit. And ultimately, this leads up to a confrontation with the Red Skull, who has found another kind of magic bullcrap slab of rock that he says he's going to use to bring about the end of the world by bringing the Hydra champion to Earth. and he needs the Tesseract to do so. So he sets up a trap where he leaks some intelligence that he's going to be traveling on a train, lures Peggy Carter and the Howling Commandos, or Captain Carter and the Howling Commandos out there. The bomb is an explosive. They capture Steve in his Iron Man suit, pry the Tesseract out of it, and he uses the stone to bring Shuma Gorath to Earth. Shuma Gorath just kind of crushes the Red Skull because he doesn't really care what Red Skull wants him to do. And Peggy Carter and the Howling Commandos end up fighting Shuma Gorath. Peggy pushes him through the portal, but she has to go through herself, similar to Captain America going into the ice. And then we fast forward to the present day where Nick Fury is experimenting on the Tesseract. He opens a portal, a bunch of bits of Shuma Gorath come out, and so does Captain Carter, where she's informed that she is now in the 21st century, and she's traveled through space and time, just like Captain America. The end. That is the not much abbreviated story, because it was a very short and compact version of the Captain America movie. So what do we have to say about this? So first of all, Peggy Carter unfortunately falls into the same trope that Disney just can't seem to get away from, which is the we can't write a believable female character trope. So Peggy Carter is this just kind of hyper masculinized, idealistic version of a woman where she has no weaknesses, no flaws. Everybody just immediately loves, respects, and affirms her every time we see her. Whenever she's on screen, somebody's complimenting her, unless it's a World War II general who's telling her that men can't be in the military, in which case she just kind of shrugs and does what she wants anyway. So, you know, the chain of command really doesn't mean much to Captain Carter. The Howling Commandos just kind of fall in line once they rescue her. She does manage to pull the mission off a bit better than Cap, because she gets there before Bucky's experimented on, and she does manage to save Bucky at the point where he would have fallen to his doom in the Captain America movie. And she's never really challenged. Nothing that Peggy Carter faces is anything that she can't very, very easily overcome. First of all, her dose of the serum must have been a lot stronger, because her version of Captain America strength is almost more Hulk-like, where she's able to literally lift trucks over her head and throw them. She's very just kind of abrasive and very in your face with most people that she meets, which hasn't been her personality in the past. And yeah, I get it. She's the super soldier now, so she can assert herself a bit more, but I don't know, that just seemed kind of out of place for the character, who's been pretty well established through a couple of movies and, you know, a few seasons of a TV series. And that brings me to just kind of the question of why does this story exist? I mean, Peggy Carter was a really good, established, and thoughtful character on her own. She's very capable. She's very good at what her job is. She's a competent agent. She's a great counterintelligence female spy. She doesn't really need the super soldier serum to be effective. I mean, yeah, it makes her more effective, but it doesn't make her a better character necessarily, because they could have taken the idea of Peggy Carter with her strengths and weaknesses, given her the serum, and made her just an incredibly potent espionage agent, but that's not what she becomes. She gets the shield, puts a flag suit on, and goes out and just kind of becomes a strong man or strong woman. I mean, and that's basically all it is. And yeah, they don't quite over hyper, sterilize her out. She does have moments where she actually shows a bit of emotion. She's got a relationship going with Steve Rogers. When he's captured, she's generally worried, or genuinely worried. But I mean, other than that, her only two emotions are in your face or just kicking butt. That's really the emotional depth that she is. And it kind of brings me to this other problem they have with Captain America, especially as they're kind of passing the mantle on, is they're really forgetting what it is that made Steve Rogers the ideal Captain America. So as I said, Peggy Carter rather, was already a very competent and very capable soldier on her own. Steve Rogers was like the meekest and the weakest specimen there was. I mean, the idea of Steve Rogers was he was the weakest among us, yet he was still willing to lay his entire life on the line for his country. So although he had the least to give, he was willing to give the most. That's what made Steve Rogers special. That's why giving him the serum just matched his physical to his heart. That's all it did. So you needed to have that building block in there to really complete the story and complete the picture of what the character of Captain America is. So taking it and giving it to somebody like Peggy Carter, or taking it and giving it to somebody like Sam Wilson the Falcon, who is already a very cool and capable superhero on his own. He does not need the mantle. I mean, as a passing of the torch story or whatever. But that's what I always have the problem with these is you're missing that key building block of he's somebody who had the will but not the means, and then they gave them the means and you see what they do with them. That's what Captain America is, and that's what this kind of what if story lacks quite a bit of. And really, this was just struck me as a very weak first step for this series, because it does play into the worst tendencies that Disney/Marvel tends to dive into, which is, just a smattering of identity politics. And yeah, I can understand where it would make sense. We're in the 1930s, 1940s. It's going to make sense that there is sexism in there. But you know what? Peggy Carter has proven herself time and time again at this point. So when you take a counter-espionage agent of her skill level, give her super strength, I find it very hard to believe that every general is just going to dismiss her. That was really a tough pill for me to swallow. And it's not just so much that they did that. It's okay to go ahead and throw that element in there as something else that she has to overcome as a woman in the 1940s, but they don't go 5 minutes without somebody mentioning, oh, well, a girl that fights? Well, not in this world that I've ever seen. And that's kind of, that sums up my problem with this one fairly well. Beyond that, the animation, I'm not a big fan of this weird kind of watercolory animation. I know that view is subjective. Some people probably really like it. This animation strikes me as the same studio and the same style they used in the Star Wars Rogue Squadron, the show that took place more in the new movies timeline. So Disney's kind of used this before, and this does look better than it did in that Star Wars series. I'll give it that. But at the same time, it's just, I don't know. It's good, it's pretty, it's effective, but it's just something about it I don't like. It looks kind of plasticky and artificial, this kind of weird 2D, 3D hybrid that it is. The action sequences were pretty competently shot, or composed, rather. Not really shot as a cartoon. And they brought most of the voice actors are mostly the actors that play the characters in the movie. So it's a good transition, from the movie to this. It's just, it gets steeped down in this. It gets just bogged in the same problems that Disney Marvel seems to find itself unable to escape from, and that's too bad, because the idea of what if is supposed to be just kind of a lot of fun and an aloof type of storyline, and doing this just I don't know, it just gives it a weird kind of murkiness that it really just doesn't need. And then my last little gripe is just kind of as a comic book fan. Now the what ifs were always presented in the comic books as more of a cautionary tale. They didn't have very good happy endings most of the time. In fact, a lot of what if did was kind of reaffirm that the way things happened in the comics happened for a reason, and they were the way they were meant to happen, and had they happened differently, things would have gone askew. So that was always kind of the point of what if. In fact, that was one of the complaints that a lot of readers have, is that they'll see something like what if Jean Grey had never died, became the Phoenix and never died, and a lot of fans would have liked to have seen that, and then you read the story and it turns out, yeah, it gets a lot worse if she would have lived, so it's a good thing that events played out the way they did. That was always the tone of what if, and it always gave it this kind of Twilight Zone feel, with the Watcher kind of acting as Rod Serling, and I enjoyed that in the comics. I didn't sense that from the series, because obviously everything works out pretty perfectly for Captain Carter. You don't see that, well, it's a good thing that Steve became Captain America because, which was always the what if tagline of had events not played out the way that they did in the comics, or the way they were meant to, quote unquote, things would have gone awry, and here's how. Not, like I said, not necessarily bad, but there's usually a lot of give and take with these stories. So if something changes, then there's an equal pendulum swing the other way to change other events, and the ripple effects can be pretty dire and drastic. So, the series ends with, obviously, this is an anthology series, so we're going to have, each episode presumably is going to be a self-contained story where we're going to see something else. So next week has a chance to be completely 180 and blow me out of the water, but it's made a bad first impression, I guess is the best way to say it. I wasn't overly impressed so far. I don't know if it was as weak as Falcon and Winter Soldier. The first episode of that was a literal chore to slog through. I wouldn't say it for this one, but that's also because this episode was short. And had this gone on for an hour, I think I may have been in the same boat of when is this going to end? So we'll see next week what they go and do. I kind of got an inkling from the preview that they're going to try to weave one solid narrative from all the What If stories, which I really hope they don't do, because that was not What If's thing. What If is just a series of fun one-offs that are pretty self-contained, and I don't think we need to see a whole separate What If universe spun out of this. That's not quite, I think, something that the title is capable of handling well. So let me know if you saw it, if you agree with my review, if it struck you as something different. Maybe you thought it was really great, maybe you thought it was worse. I don't know. Let's talk about it in the comments. And while you're down there, please do all the usual stuff, like and subscribe to the channel if you're not already a subscriber. Share the video too, really helps me get my content out there and helps the channel grow. And I really hope you check out my comic Malevolent Rising issue 5 on Indiegogo. Again, link in the description, and I will talk to you in the next video. Thanks for hanging in. Bye.